Well, what a week. First off, we got a whole load of information about the Xbox Series X, and then, after much waiting and speculation, earlier today, Mark Cerny finally broke silence and gave us some more details about the PlayStation 5. And riveting it was too. Yeah, not exactly riveting at all. Mark Cerny's obviously an incredibly intelligent guy with a keen grasp on the concepts he's talking about, but unfortunately, he also has the charisma of a wet rag. In fact, I think I'd be more excited listening to my granny talking about her bunions, and my granny's been dead for decades, so yeah, that could have been interesting. To be fair to Cerny, though, this was never supposed to be a full console announcement. Instead, it was supposed to be a Game Developers Conference, or GDC, keynote. As such, it was probably a little unfair of me to be expecting bells and whistles, but there you go. You can live in hope, can't you? It was supposed to be a deep dive into the tech on offer, though, and we kind of got that. But what did we actually learn? Well, first off, there was a lot of waffle about not very much, and then there was a meander around PlayStation history, and yeah, I think finally got to the point. I think the audience was finding it pretty fascinating, but then again, the audience was made up of what looked like the digital equivalent of cardboard cutouts. Certainly wasn't a real audience. After the first 5 minutes or so, I was all but asleep. It did pick up though, and after what seemed like an eternity, we finally got some specs. Not surprisingly, those specs are pretty similar to those of the Xbox Series X, but there are some key differences, not least as regards the I/O throughput of the two consoles, and we'll get to that in a minute. First off, there was the CPU. The PlayStation 5 is going to have 8 Zen 2 cores at 3.5 gigahertz, and that's a little slower than the Xbox Series X, which can run the cores at 3.8 gigahertz or 3.6 gigahertz with multi-threading. The biggest difference here, though, seems to be in approach. Sony stressed that the CPU and GPU on the PlayStation 5 will have variable frequencies, whereas Microsoft were equally at pains to stress that their machines will run at fixed frequencies. It'll be interesting to see which approach, if any, turns out to be better moving forward, or whether the different approaches will deliver any difference at all. One thing's for certain, though. Those of us who were predicting that the Xbox's raw power would be higher were pretty much right, because the PlayStation 5's GPU is just a bit behind that of the Series X. The X has 53 compute units running at 1.825 GHz, which adds up to 12 teraflops, while the PS5 has 36 compute units running at 2.23 GHz, which works out at 10.28 teraflops. Again, it seems that the Xbox and PlayStation are taking different approaches to the same problem. Xbox has gone for more CUs, and PlayStation has gone for higher clocks. It will be interesting to see which approach yields better results again. On paper, though, the Xbox seems to be edging it in terms of power. It's not really important what's on paper, though. What is important is what happens when we actually get to see the consoles in action, and we'll find that out later in the year. Memory's a bit more difficult to work out, as while both machines have 16 gigabytes of GDDR6 memory, the Xbox has 10 gigabytes at 560 gigabytes a second, and 6 gigabytes at 336 gigabytes a second, while the PlayStation 5 runs all 16 gigabytes at 448 gigabytes a second. Oh, and the PlayStation 5's memory is 256-bit, while I couldn't actually find out what that was for the Xbox. The one area where the PlayStation 5 seems to have a significant advantage, though, is with the I/O throughput. The Xbox runs at 2.4 gigabytes per second raw and 4.8 gigabytes a second compressed. The PlayStation 5, on the other hand, has been ingesting heroic quantities of amphetamines, and it runs at 5.5 gigabytes a second raw and between 8 and 9 gigabytes a second compressed. That's seriously quick, and as long as the slower GPU and CPU don't hold it back, it'll be like a whip it out of the gates. In fact, it does look like the impressive loading times on the Xbox might not look quite so impressive when compared to the PlayStation 5, but we'll have to wait and see with that one as well. One last area of difference surprised me though. I was expecting the storage of the two machines to be 1 terabyte, and that's actually what we got for the Xbox Series X. As it turned out though, the PlayStation 5 has less than that, and it's got 825 gigabytes. And this actually left me a little bit nonplussed. 1 terabyte isn't exactly huge when it comes to housing modern games, and 825 gigabytes is going to be tiny. Sony explains some of this, and some of it made sense if you look at this in terms of the overall choices Sony made as regards the architecture of the machine. But his explanation of why a bigger drive wasn't really necessary because of the way gamers play, well, that just didn't add up to me. He seemed to be saying that improved I/O negates the need to have all our games stored on a hard drive because we can easily download them, but frankly, that's bull. We all know how annoying it is to go and play a game only to discover that we've removed it to make room for something else. And improved I/O will only go some way towards improving that, especially if you factor in the issue of internet download speeds and data caps. Sony's no more control over that than Google. And if you've got a data cap on your system and you want to download one of these new games, well, good luck with that. I was pleased to see their approach to external storage though. The fact that they haven't gone for proprietary storage like Microsoft have done with the Xbox Series X was a welcome surprise. It'll be interesting to see how long it'll be after launch before we start seeing compatible PCIe 4 drives though. It'll also be interesting to see which of the two approaches to external storage turns out to be the most cost effective for us, the gamers. Proprietary storage has a tendency to be expensive, as Sony know all too well from the Vita days, and maybe that's why they haven't gone that route this time. But non-proprietary NVMe drives aren't cheap either. With a bit of luck, the two companies will try to outdo each other on price when it comes to these drives, and, well, everyone's a winner, or at least the gamers will be a winner. I do think we'll need to start saving for these drives though, especially if we want to put more than 1 terabyte in these machines. And actually, if we want more than 1 terabyte, we might have to wait a while as well, because from what I can gather, we're not getting bigger than 1 terabyte for the Xbox Series X. Well, certainly anytime soon after launch, and from what Sony said, it could be a while before we get these NVMe drives for the PlayStation 5 as well. That was about it though, apart from a long piece about ray-traced audio, which looked interesting apart from the suggestion that we all send in pictures or videos of our ears. I'm a bit of a reformed audiophile, so I love anything that can help sound in games, but there are limits. What's next? Will we be invited to send samples of our earwax? Actually, I'd be up for that. My ears could do with syringing. There's a bucket of wax on its way to you, Mark. Don't say I never send you anything. The mind boggles. What was a bit of a disappointment for me, though, and, I have to sort of put this in context because I wasn't expecting this. I was more hoping it. And that was that we didn't get even a glimpse of the PlayStation 5 hardware or even the DualShock 5 hardware. And as I say, it wasn't that much of a surprise to me. And I did know that this was in lieu of a GDC keynote that had to be cancelled, but I would have liked them to have mixed things up a bit. After all, we know so much about the Xbox Series X now, and we can begin to imagine owning it. Well, with the PlayStation 5, well, that still resides mostly in our imaginations. It's kind of this amorphous thing that's still out there waiting to coalesce into something solid. Maybe that's what Sony want. Maybe they want us to continue to speculate. But honestly, I'd rather have something tangible that I could look forward to getting my hands on. So yeah, we know a lot more about the PlayStation 5 now, even if it isn't quite as much as I would have liked. We can all stop speculating about teraflops now though, because that's all over. We know what the teraflops are going to be, and the fanboys can stop jockeying for position as to who gets the bragging rights. Yeah, right. There's obviously enough difference here and enough threads to hold on to and pull to keep the fanboys going for months, if not years. Because one thing's for certain, it doesn't matter which console turns out to be the better console, if either of them do. fanboys will always find some way to justify their adherence to a piece of plastic. The Xbots will be crowing about teraflops, while the ponies, who were trying to claim that the PlayStation 5 had more teraflops only days ago, will be saying teraflops are irrelevant and only I/O matters. Basically then, business as usual. Oh, it's fun to be locked indoors sometimes. Right, that's me done. I'm going to go and hit the hay as it happens. Don't forget to give this one a like, subscribe, share with your friends, ring the bell, all the usual nonsense, you know the drill. And as I say, I'm going to hit the hay, not going to get a cup of tea because it's late, and I will speak to you guys in the next one. Bye.